All right, folks, welcome to another episode of the 100% Wild podcast. I'm Mark Kenyon here with Wired to Hunt. On the other side, we've got Matt Drury. How are you, buddy?
What's up? I'm good, my man. I also have Tim Chelsvik from the Thinking Woodsman here.
Hey, guys.
He's going to
Tim.
start joining us on all the podcasts. I think he's going to be able to bring a lot of we've had him on a couple so far, and he's brought some good insight. And I think we're going to start keeping him on every podcast if we can.
Sweet.
I like that because I think he helps keep you in line over there, Matt. Someone's got to be there keeping you on a
leash. Got to bring the discipline, yeah.
If Mark Drury's not here, I'm pretty much just a free-for-all.
Staying on track.
That's right. So
it's good.
Things are good?
Yeah. I got a turkey down a week and a half ago.
Sweet.
And that's good. So I'm a happy camper.
How was the season up there? That was in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
So how are they gobbling? How are they acting?
Pretty good. Not as much activity. We never have incredible gobbling in the afternoons, I guess, from my own personal anecdotal experience, but that's been a little bit less maybe so than even in past years. But the mornings, good activity, seeing a lot of birds, hearing a lot of birds. So yeah, that was a week and a half ago. We had a good 4 days I was hunting and had a good time. And now this coming weekend, I've got a bunch of friends coming into town who are going to be hunting. I already filled my tag, but I'll be kind of acting as tour guide, I suppose, helping them get on some birds and calling in some toms, hopefully. So hoping that the activity is still good now as we get later into the season. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been on average a pretty normal year.
Yeah. How's your adventures in mouth calling? You ready to join the circuit?
Yeah, you know what? I actually am feeling really good. I've come a long way, I feel like, this year. Pretty confident now in how things went. That was the bird I killed was the first bird I've ever called in using just a mouth call. So that was cool.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it's so nice. In the past, I'd always been so dependent on the slate. And it was really nice this year not to have to worry about ever grabbing for anything. You know, I could just keep hold of that gun and stay focused on not moving at all and just yelped them right in. So I'm glad I was finally able to figure it out.
Sweet.
Yeah. You guys had any luck?
Well, one of us did, and it was not me. It sucked, man. I went back up to Dad's, and we got between what he owns there in North Missouri and what we lease for turkey season between Chris Comstock and Chad Kilmer, a couple of the guys that we hunt with. I mean, we got a couple 1,000 acres of dirt to cover for turkey season, and they would not play. They just wouldn't. I mean, it was, off the roost, on the roost, they'd gobble great. I was within probably 60 to 80 yards of them on the roost both mornings I went, because we just traditionally know there on Dad's farm, it's called Booner Ridge, where we know that they roost every year, and we got in tight on them. And, man, they just wouldn't, they always had a hen or two with them, and this one gobbler, and he just wouldn't play. And he'd fly down, and you'd never hear him again. Chad and Chris, I think they only killed one turkey. I don't think Chad killed any in 3 weeks. Chris killed one in 3 weeks. I think that was week 2. I didn't kill any. Terry, Dad, and his camera guy, Forrest, on the property that we have to hunt in that area, so within probably a 20 mile radius. No, nothing. So it was,
That's killer.
It was brutal. I mean, we had all that dirt, and not one turkey got killed off of it. So.
Yeah.
I know Tim's got he's got a success story, a better story than I do.
And it didn't look likely because it was Saturday, so the second to last day of season. My buddy went out to the property the night before to roost some birds, and it was dead silent, nothing. So we kind of got together and we're like, well, let's just set up in a spot where we killed before. Killed with my dad probably 2 or 3 years ago. I had some jakes come up on this ridge. I had some good trail cam pictures of birds here before. And so we set the blind up, got settled, didn't hear any gobbling off the roost, calling, waiting. And then around 6:30 or so, we hear some gobbling about 200 yards down in this kind of central pasture in this cattle ranch that we hunt. And the birds started working closer and then started falling back and working kind of like a wave coming at you, then coming away, and then going away. And then they shut up, and probably I was like 6:45 a.m. I hear my buddy saying, "Birds, birds, we got birds!" And I look over, and sure enough, these two big gobblers are coming up this old access road onto the ridge that we're on, and it's just like it's supposed to happen. They came right to the decoys. They started roughing them up, and I arrowed the first one, so I was bow hunting him. Arrowed the first one, and he just kind of did a flip and then took a lap around the decoys. He didn't know what happened. And the other one hung around also. Two came in. And my camera guy, we swapped. I took his camera, and he grabbed his gun, and he dropped the second bird, and we doubled out by 6:45, 6:50. And you're just like kind of looking at each other like, I guess that just happened. You could sit till 1 o'clock here in Missouri and nothing happens, or you could be done by 7 a.m. You just never know what's going to happen. That's part of the magic to me at turkey hunting is it's a grab bag every time you go out.
Sounds like there was turkey for lunch.
Yeah, we actually had turkey nuggets for dinner that night.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. That's
finally
the double is not easy to pull, especially with two different weapons. That's nice.
and to get it on camera, it was beautiful.
Yeah,
cool. It really was.
Man, you guys had to pull Tim and his buddy over to your neck of the woods, man. I guess I was done.
We need a pro. On the other hand, Mark and his crew have killed every turkey in every state.
It's a killing tour.
Well, he calls it the turkey tour, right? They were just in Nebraska, and I don't know, they had like 5-6 tags, something like that, and they tagged out. Yeah. It just, I think that's why he doesn't hunt at Dad's place anymore, because that used to be where our entire turkey camp was, and slowly but surely the numbers have been in such a decline there in northern Missouri in that area. And I honestly, I've heard this from a lot of Missouri hunters this year, how bad the season was, where you might hear 14 gobblers and it's down to 3 or 4, in on a farm or whatever. I mean, that's kind of the story for us in and around where we're hunting. So it's alarming. I think it has a lot to do with predation, too many coons, too many things getting into those nests. I think we had a couple bad hatches with wet springs and stuff like that in a row, and we just didn't have a good crop of jakes coming up. So it's not good, and I don't know. I think if it keeps going this way, Missouri might have to look back at the old rules and regs they used to have, which was just one bird in 2 weeks.
Yeah. The Department of Conservation is looking at different options right now because harvest numbers were somewhere in the 30,000, I think, for the entire turkey season, which is very low for Missouri. And they knew that going in. They were kind of putting out press releases that it's going to be a tough turkey season.
Yeah, well, it was.
It kind of sounds like, Matt, that maybe you guys need to find a new property.
Hey,
and
is this a segue?
Wow.
Speaking of new properties.
He's rolling into it. Yeah, very smooth.
Should we get to our question of the day?
Yeah, let's get to the question of the day. And the question of the day is brought to you by Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter.
Hey, guys, this is Mike Green from Central Florida. I just got a new lease in Georgia. My question to you would be, when you guys acquire a new piece of property to hunt, when do you start scouting it? How hard do you scout it, and how long? When do you hang your sets, and when do you back off to keep intrusion down? I appreciate the show and look forward to your answer. Thank you.
It's a great question, and honestly, I think it's one that a lot of guys are dealing with right now. The timing is kind of right now because, frankly, like he was talking about scouting and when you do all that stuff, I think even like land sales, the hottest time for land sales is usually like the February, March, April timeframe. So, people, it's on their mind. Season's over. It's on their minds. They're out looking for new pieces, whether it's to lease or own. And realistically, that time of year before the spring green up hits and the foliage starts coming out is perfect to go scout. So like, here it is, middle of May. It's kind of getting too late. It's it's not really ever too late, I guess, but it's getting a lot harder because foliage, at least down here in the Midwest. I mean, maybe where you're at, it's just starting to green up. I don't know how far in the season you are up there, but it's fully bloomed up here, and it's just a lot harder to scout in those once it gets to that point. Yeah. So, for us, February, March is a great time to walk your property, because not only are you scouting via, you're looking for sheds, but you're looking at trails, you're looking at kind of bedding, you're really honing in on all those different things that you need to know come fall, but it's the least intrusive time to do it. So I don't know, Mark, what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think, it of course depends on when you pick up that new property. So I'd say as soon as you can is the best time, right? But if possible, if you're able to pick up that new property, like you said, in that winter time frame or early spring before green up, that's perfect, because just like you mentioned, you can see all the sign from last year's rut still. You can see beds, you can see rubs and scrapes really well. You can see the trails that were being used the previous fall and winter. So definitely try to start at that point. Now, if you're picking up your new property, the day before hunting season, though, then you got to think things through a little bit differently. You got to, okay, yeah, I need to learn something about this new property so I can hunt it now. But at the same time, you can't do the same kind of scouting the day before hunting season that you would do in February. So in that case, you really got to be thinking about the impact on the deer herd. So just be thinking, do I have plenty of time to do some significant scouting without needing to worry about, bumping and educating these deer? Or if not, then don't do that kind of aggressive scouting. Your scouting that first season is going to have to be basically observations from hunting and map scouting. And then after that first season, then you can start doing that further digging in, but you don't want to mess everything up before you even get a chance to hunt it. So I would say, though, number one, before I even started walking the property, whether it's in February or August, I would spend some significant time with my maps and really studying the maps and thinking through the big picture. What are the areas that I think are going to be the best bedding areas based on the cover and structure that I'm seeing in the maps? Where do I think those best food sources are going to be? What are some of the different topographical features that I think might be funneling deer movement? And what I like to do when I get a new property is I spend that first I take that first day or whatever, just looking at my map and kind of circling all those hot spots that I think will be hot spots. And then when you go and scout for the first time, you can be a lot more efficient because you can go on the ground finally and the ground truth, those specific areas that you think will be the highest priority. So now I know the spots that I think there should be bedrooms. I'm going to go there and check and see if I'm right. And that way, rather than walking aimlessly, all around, which yeah, at some point when you have the time, you do want to kind of cover a new property head to toe and make sure you understand everything that's on it. But if you're crunched for time, or if this is something where you're driving across the country and you've got 2 days or something, you want to be efficient. So that map work ahead of time can really help you focus your time and effort to make sure you're zeroing in on the best places. And then once you're there on the ground, then figuring out those core pieces of the puzzle, which are bedding areas, food sources, transitions, pinch points. That's going to help you get started at least. But like I mentioned, I think it's just very important to remember what amount of impact is okay at a given time. In February, you can walk everything and it's probably going to be fine. September 10th, it's going to be a different story. So those are a couple thoughts right off the bat. I know he talked a lot more about when to back out. He asked about when to hang sets, things like that. But I guess before we go into that, Tim, do you have any other thoughts to the first part?
Yeah, I just don't think you can overlook the importance of low impact scouting also, talking to folks that frequent the area, like bus drivers, mail men, neighbors, those kind of things. If you have a drone, you fly the drone over the property. If you can manage that, you can see trails that you might not be able to see on the ground, and see patterns in the topography. Those things are all low impact things you can do to get intel before you push in. And then, like you mentioned, if you pick up a property in short order, you got to go in. It's and this has happened to me. I've done kind of observational hunts where I'm taking the bow with me, I'm hunting, but really I know that this is a low probability of seeing deer. I'm going to hang back on the periphery and start to push in kind of incrementally and watch and observe and see how the deer are moving on the property, knowing that I'm not going to have high expectations for killing something. This is more just kind of watching, but then you never know because you haven't been on the property.
Yeah. Sometimes you just get lucky, and I'll take that luck any day.
That's most of the time that I kill a deer.
Now, what about to the second part of his question? Because we kind of talked about when to start the scouting, what some of that high-level scouting looks like. But now we're actually doing some work, hanging stands, getting things prepped. at least for me, usually I like to do the main scouting that in that early pre-green up phase. But I actually like to hang my stands post green up because lots of times you're trimming out stands or trimming out shooting lanes or doing all that kind of stuff. And if you do that in February before all the new growth, and if you're not coming back in there to check it again, everything's going to be grown over, and you're going to show up to your tree stand in November, and everything's going to be different than when you set up that tree stand. So sometimes what's helpful to do is to get in there, see how it looks in February or March before green up, maybe get the stands up then, but then know that it's going to be different. Come back in July or something after green up, and then retrim your lanes, recheck and make sure you can climb up into your tree stand without getting hung up on stuff. Again, I think that new growth is just something you need to take into account. So I like to have my stands up at least by midsummer. Again, not having them too close to that hunting season. And he asked, when do I back out and let the property lay? I would say give it as much time as you possibly can, but my minimum is always 1 month before opening day. So that's always I never will be on my property except for like a very low impact trail camera pull for those final 30 days leading up to the opener. And in a perfect world, even more so if I could. What do you guys do on that front?
Yeah, I mean, personally, like last year on the lease, I feel like we screwed up a lot of deer movement because we were in there messing around, whether it be with fall food plots or we hung a couple sets late, in the summer, and we put up a muddy bull blind, right kind of in the thick of the middle of the property. And I think ultimately that hurt us for the first. I mean, we weren't seeing our deer, who we were after, PH. We didn't see him for like a month of the first part of the season. It was crazy. He just disappeared. I mean, there was a few factors there. The acorns were heavy that year. And I mean, but I felt like, looking back, I felt like our intrusion hurt us majorly. And that's something that Mark and Terry preach nonstop, and it's one of those deals where I know it. I mean, I know I shouldn't have been in there, but I had to get the stands in, and we were just kind of late to the game. No real excuse why. we should have been, done in May and June, but life gets hectic and busy, and it's just hard to get, it's an hour away. It's just hard to always get up there. And I think those guys that say, are from down south and they travel up to the Midwest to a lease or something like that, or a property they own, that they're probably masters at planning this stuff out a little better. What if they're coming up for spring food plots or planting like beans and corn, they're probably getting a lot of that stuff done, trying to make the most out of their time up there. And I think because we're only an hour away, it's a good and a bad thing because we procrastinate a lot. Yep. and put it off. And this year, I'm not like, the lease is pretty much set up. We got to go in and check some stuff, maybe trim some lanes, like you said, after the spring green up. But other than that, like, I plan on by and large staying the hell out of it, because I really do think we adversely affected it. Now we got a new piece that's 10 minutes away from there that Dad and I purchased, and that's a different story. Like, we got all the work to do. It's never had any food plots on it. We got to start from scratch. We got to tear out some probably, I don't know, 5-6 year old maple trees, and so we got a lot of work to do. Well, we went up last week to start the work, and it's completely underwater. It's flooded because it's on the Mississippi, and so it's like, Jesus, man, it's like I actually was going to try to be ahead of the game for once, and
not so much.
Here we're going to probably be stuck waiting until, it kind of told us, it's like our gut instinct was to not plant any food plots there until fall. Yeah. So don't put any beans or corn because it could flood, spring, summer in Mississippi. Yeah. And sure enough, it flooded. So, now, that being said, can we get in there, hang some stands? Yes. Can we get in there and start doing the clearing that we want for a few of these food plots? Yes. And that's kind of what we were starting to do. I want to put posted signs up. I want to, put a gate up and all that other kind of stuff. So, once the waters, recede, we're going to go back up and reevaluate. But I definitely think, like last year, we just screwed up the lease totally by being in there too much and too late.
It seems
It's
like
easy to do.
It seems like it's pretty safe to say that we're never completely happy with our setup.
No.
No. There's always more you could do. There's always more more time you wish you could spend, more time trimming, hanging more stands, more trail. It's just, it's a chasing after the wind. Sometimes you just have to be happy with, okay, we did our best job and this is what we got.
I'm there on the lease. We just get the food in, get out.
Yeah. When do you like to get your stands up, Tim? Are you kind of in the same ballpark as what we've been talking about, or do you have a different perspective at all?
Yeah, I like to do my inventory with the trail cams over the summertime, of course, and then early August. So I have a limited number of trail cams and a limited number of stands, and so I have to be very strategic on where I put them. And I want to put them in places where I know that there are good deer coming through, and so usually I'll do kind of the inventory over the summertime, and then hang the stands in early to mid-August at the very latest, and then I get the heck out of there and I don't come back until it's time to hunt. I like the deer to be surprised. Like I want them to hear the bowstring go off, and that's the only artifact they have of me having been there.
That's that perfect scenario.
It is perfect, and it rarely happens, but that's what I shoot for.
Pun intended.
Got to shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was out yesterday touring someone else's property, kind of seeing how they set everything up and the habitat work they've done and everything, and it just got me all fired up and excited for all the projects that I want to do this summer and in late spring. So it's going to be that time of year. The summer prep work begins, and that means that we are just a few short months away from actually being in a tree, which is kind of crazy to think about.
It is. Ready for it.
Yesterday I was thinking about it. It's like I'm still seeing, like Mark and his group are out turkey hunting, and I'm still seeing people, because even like PA and those seasons are coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so those, of course, all those people are posting about it on social, and I'm thinking, God, I'm actually sick of turkey season.
I'm over turkey
but
season.
Then I had to really think about it. Is it like a jealousy thing? Like, because I didn't kill? There's part of that.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, stupid turkeys, let's move on to deer.
Turkeys suck.
So mentally, I'm back on a deer.
Yeah. So I guess with that said, do we need to wrap this up, or is there anything else that we should touch on?
I think we covered it pretty good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Awesome. Well, on my side, if you want to send in a question, let us know over at wiredtohunt.com/100%wild. Make sure you're subscribing to the audio and the video version. And speaking of the video version, any thoughts there, Matt?
Absolutely. As always, especially if you're listening to this, you can watch this over on our YouTube channel at Drury Outdoors. And, of course, while you're there, we have tons of great content. We're ramping up now that of course, during spring turkey season, we had a bunch of cool turkey hunts. But we'll start ramping up with some cool whitetail stuff here, informative tips. We got like a gamekeeper series we started. We're going to start a deal for the new show Critical Mass called CMX, Critical Mass Extreme, almost kind of like a cutting room floor, just like what we do with 13. Of course, there'll be new 13 cutting room floor episodes hitting as well. All that starts in July. So we're hot and heavy in the edit process here at the studio, and we got a lot of cool original content coming out soon. And, of course, the new TV shows will start up on the Outdoor Channel July 1st or 2nd, I believe. And we're excited. We got a lot of cool things cooking. So, as always, you can follow us over on social media at Drury Outdoors. And I think that covers it for me, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. We appreciate it.
Peace.
See ya.